We're now going to be using any one or more of the 6 angle properties we know in order to find unknown angles in angle diagrams. Now, it's really important to stress that there may be more than one way of working out an angle. Secondly, if you have to do more than one calculation to work out an angle, we want you to show you're working out. So let's look at part A here. We've got our angle diagram and they want us to work out angles A and B. It's always a good idea to start with an unknown angle that's close to a known angle. So it makes sense to start with A here because it's close to the 40 degrees. Now hopefully straight away you're able to recognize that we actually have an X here, 2 straight lines intersecting at a point, and that means that angle A and angle 40 are vertically opposite each other. So they're the same. So straight away we can write down that A is equal to 40 degrees. And remember to put the reason in brackets. The reason here is the X rule. And it doesn't do any harm as well, once you've worked out an angle, to then pencil it in on your diagram. So angle A is 40 degrees. Now, we want to get angle B, which is a bit further away here from angle A and angle 40. However, we can actually use the F rule to work out angle B, because if we draw or trace over the 2 lines that B lies between, so that's going to form part of our F. If we continue this line on down to the corner of angle A and then trace over the bottom line, we now have our letter F, and our letter F contains 2 parallel lines. And what you'll be able to notice then is that angle A and angle B are corresponding angles because they lie inside the letter F. They lie at the joints of the F, and they both lie on the same side of each parallel line. They both lie above each parallel line. So that means that angle B and A are the same, so angle B is also 40 degrees. And put the reason in brackets. In this case, it was the F rule. And that is our answer for part A. Okay, let's turn our attention to example B. So again, we have lots of unknown angles here, C, D, E, G, H, F and I, and there's only one angle that we know, 48. So again, it makes sense to start close to the given angle of 48. So again, straight away, D should be easy to work out because we have an X, like a letter X formed here, and D and 48 are vertically opposite each other, so they're going to be the same. So straight away we can say that D is 48 degrees, and that's because of the X rule. And again, it doesn't do any harm to pencil it in on our diagram. Okay, what about angle C? Well, there's 2 ways we can get angle C. We can either treat angle C and angle 48 as supplementary angles, or angles on a straight line, because they lie in the same straight line and they span a total angle of 180 degrees, or we could treat angles D and C as supplementary. So it doesn't matter which pair you use. I'm going to use C and 48. So to get angle C, we have to subtract 48 degrees from 180. So 180 minus 48 is going to give us 132 degrees. So angle C is 132 degrees. And that's because of angles on a straight line, ASL, or supplementary angles. Again, I'm going to pencil that into our diagram. So angle C is 132 degrees. Now, angle E isn't too far away, so our attention could shift towards angle E. Again, how could we get angle E? Well, again, what we should hopefully be able to recognize is that angle E and angle C are actually corresponding angles, because if we trace over the two lines that angle E lies between, so if I were to trace over that line and then trace over that line, that would be part of our letter F. If I continued the top line onwards to the corner of angle C like that, and then traced over the other parallel line from C, what we would have here is our F shape. So there's the letter F. Now again, angle C and angle E would be corresponding angles because they lie inside an F, which is two parallel lines. They lie at the joints of the F, and they lie on the same side of each parallel line. So C is to the left of this parallel line, and E is to the left of that parallel line. So they're corresponding, so they're the same. So if C is 132, then E is also 132. And the reason this time is because of the F rule. And again, once you've worked out an angle, it doesn't do any harm to pencil that angle into your diagram. 132 degrees. So we're trying now to get down to this bottom area here where there's four unknown angles. So we've got E. Is there any way we can get from E to these angles? Well, you can actually use the F rule again, because if you focus in on this letter F here, what you'll hopefully notice is that letter F and letter E are actually corresponding angles. Because if I were to trace over the two lines that F lies between, so I'm going to trace over that bit, and I'm going to trace over this bit. So I'm tracing over the two lines that F lies between. That's going to be part of our F. I'm then going to continue this line here upwards. So I'm going to trace over this bit, and then I'm going to trace over the bit at the top of E to form our F. So if we do that, like that, what we have is a strange looking back to front F, but it is literally a letter F flipped back to front because it contains two parallel lines. Remember, there's one line with one arrow on it, there's another line with one arrow, so this little green bit and that little green bit are two parallel lines. So we've got our letter F, and then that means that the angle here at E and the angle down here at F are corresponding, because they both lie inside the letter F, they both lie at the joints of the F, and they both lie on the same side of each parallel line. They both lie under each parallel line, so they are corresponding. So that means that angle F is also 132 degrees. Again, because of the F rule. And once more, we can pencil that into our diagram. So F is 132. So the good news is, now that we've got F, all of these other angles are close by, which means they shouldn't be too difficult to work out. The obvious one here is letter G, because we have an X, a letter X here. So that means G is vertically opposite F, which means they're the same. So that means G is also equal to 132 degrees, and that's because of the X rule. And pencil it into your diagram. So that only leaves two angles, I and H. Again, we could go for I. There's two ways we could get I, because we know this angle F. So angle F and angle I are supplementary angles. They both lie in the same straight line, this line here, and they span a total angle of 180. So we could get angle I that way. Or we could use angle I and angle G. They are also supplementary angles, so we could get angle I that way. It doesn't particularly matter. I'm going to use angle I and angle F, so they are supplementary angles. So to get angle I, we subtract 132 from 180, and that's going to leave us with 48 degrees. So that means angle I is 48 degrees, and that's because of angles on a straight line, or supplementary angles. Then pencil it into your diagram. Angle I is 48. And then that just leaves angle H. And the easiest way to get angle H is again to recognize we've got a letter X here, and angle I and angle H are vertically opposite each other, so that means they're the same. So that means angle H is also 48 degrees, and that is because of the X rule.